Kravets. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Hello and welcome to the HHH Racing Podcast, continuing coverage of previews for the 2024 Breeders' Cup at beautiful Del Mar Racecourse in San Diego, California. I am your proud host, Howard Kravets. Thanks for joining us as we have our Royal Ascot hat on. You know why. This is one of the most anticipated podcasts we have all year long, as we are live here 3 p.m. Eastern on Friday, October 25th, here to talk about many of the foreign horses that will be entering this year's Breeder Cup from Europe, and also we'll be having some short discussions of horses as well coming from Asia, all with our great friend and expert handicapper from the UK, Mr. Davy Lane. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side of the screen and hit that notification bell on the top right. It is very important you do that on YouTube so that you know when new content will arise, because we have a ton of content coming up for Breeders' Cup 2024. And then if you really want to help the show, there's really two things you can do. Smash that like button, that thumbs up button below the video player. We really appreciate that. And the second thing you can do, well, we'll tell you about that later on in the show. But again, we greatly appreciate everyone joining us today. Without further ado, let's get started. We have a lot of horses to go through. We're going to go through literally every race here on the HHH Racing Podcast for the Breeders' Cup, at least the ones that have foreign entrants, and there are a plethora of them. There are, I believe, 80 international entrants, yes, this year. That is a record. There were 60 pre-entered as the previous record, and there are 80 this year, including 19 from Japan. We have a lot to get to. So, without further ado, I have done a ton of research. My good friend Davy Lane has done a ton of research, and we are here to help you out. Let's bring him on. He is live from his home base, I believe, in Liverpool, England. Let's bring him on right now, the one and only Davy Lane. Davy, how you doing today?
I say tally ho, Howard. Good to see you again.
I love it, Davy. Good to see you, my friend. And for those people that don't know, Davy was my travel partner in Europe this past summer, and we had a great time. Davy, I'm more familiar with these horses than I ever have been in the past for two reasons. Number one is because I actually saw some of them in person at Ascot in France as well, and other places. And number two, like you, I'm sure we've done some deep diving into these races. Before we get into the first race on Friday, Davey, in the juvenile races, just a quick thought overall on the European contingent coming here to the States next week. As I said, record number of 80 international pre-entries this year.
Well, it's much bigger than I expected. In some respects, it's much better than I expected. Although in a marquee race, I was hoping to be surprised and have a couple of better quality horses. I'm referring to the turf, and that's gone a bit soft. But subsequently today, we learned that perennial Group 1 winning horse Emily Upjohn with Frankie Dettori is actually going to go in the turf, I understand.
Yes, that is correct.
So that makes that race a bit more interesting and gives it a bit more cachet if the horse is still up to scratch. And, you know, prior to yesterday, I'd pretty much ruled the horse out as a winning chance. Now I'm considering the Frankie Dettori dynamic and so on. So that I have to cogitate. I have to work that one out. You know, it's not straightforward. So we'll see. He's he's going to pick up other marquee rides as well. I've been busy, so I've not really followed who's getting the juicy bookings right now. But that's one thing to go over, because in terms of the early entries, there's a lot of horses that have had certain jockeys that have ridden the horses, such as Buick has ridden two Godolphin horses, Ryan Moore with Coolmore, James Doyle. You know, which ones will these guys plump for? So that's an important thing to watch for as well. So we can talk about that when we go through the fields.
Yes, we will. We have a lot of people in the chat. High Risk wants to know cheekily how many runners will the vet scratch from the Coolmore barn? We'll talk about that a little bit later in that situation. Jim Pillars is here talking to Katie. Let's see here. We've got I got a lot of people in the chat. Michael Austin from California wants to say hello to you, Davey. Davey, welcome back from Michael Austin. Jim Pillars, welcome, Davey. I have a fresh page open to my notebook and a newly sharpened pencil. Looking forward to your terrific insight on the European contingent coming to Del Mar. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Davey is a very humble guy. If I said he was an expert, he would scoff at that idea. But Davey is an excellent punter, handicapper. For those of you who don't know him, he's been doing this a long time. He has a lot of wonderful insight and has given a lot of great insight on this on this podcast in many ways. And Davey, I want to apologize to everyone as we are live. If I look down a little bit in the next few minutes, it's because I actually have a runner with small ownership piece of that is running at Keeneland right now as we speak here on Friday afternoon. So I won't commentate, but I apologize to everyone. I also want to let everyone know I'm going to be looking to my right. I know that it looks like I'm looking to the left on your screen, but I'm going to look to the right. I have many different tabs I'll be using. We have some interview cuts from Aidan O'Brien from our show. We have PPs. We have anti-post prices. From a tech standpoint, ladies and gentlemen, this is a lot for me to handle personally. So I'm not looking for any excuses for anyone. I do not have my own producer or editor. So just let you know, there'll be a lot of looking left and right and a lot of buttons to press. And so if I'm not looking at the camera during this podcast as much as normally, I greatly apologize. And that also includes bringing up comments in the chat. All right, Davey, let's get on it. Let's get on to it. The first race, we're going to look at the races on Friday. The first race on Friday, I'm going to go ahead and bring up on the screen, is the Juvenile Turf Sprint. And we do have some replays that Davey wants us all to see. Let's just look at the pre-entries. Again, we don't have the final fields, but we're looking at the pre-entries here. You see them on the screen. It's a definitely a group that is from all over the world, including some horses that might not get in. When you saw this list right away, Davey, what came to mind?
Well, I mean, what came to mind is, which of these young horses have shown form on good to firm. And we talked about this last year. The mistakes the Euros have made in the past, they've largely rectified because they're generally already plucking horses that have had good form on good to firm ground. And Shareholder is one that, and we're going to look at a video in a moment, that has had an emphatic win on good to firm ground, which is at a race at Royal Ascot, the Norfolk Stakes, which you and I watched. I don't recall you and I betting Shareholder, but we were there. And if you got the video, you can watch Shareholder pull away.
Well, before we do that, I think what I want to do, Davey, in this particular order, just to be consistent, is I'll show the anti-post odds. And we had a conversation about this. You're the perfect person to ask. This is from Races. Talk about how reliable these anti-post odds are, and they are up to date. And any first impressions you see in the odds, first of all.
Well, that particular page you're on is an aggregated page. So there's probably about 20 to 25 different bookies that's showing the price. So if one bookie is an outlier and offers a price of, let me look at the list there. You've got this Big Mojo is 5-1 there. Well, Big Mojo might be 8-1 everywhere else, but someone's got him 5-1. So it's not a reflection. So you're basically getting that, so you have to be alert to that. And you also have to be alert to the fact that aggregated list gives equal balance to the best bookmakers and the more cockadoodle ones.
Okay.
And you have to be aware of that. One of the points Paul Halloran was making earlier about, there's horses that are like retired that are on the list. Well, this goes to what the bookmakers, some of them such as Bet365, and I'm not giving them a plug, but they have their own proprietary software. They've got big staffs. So if, for example, a horse such as one the other day, which pulled out, the Chosen Veron, that goes on Twitter, someone says it's pulled out. Someone like me can find out that immediately and I can make a bet. Bet 65 can be 5, 10, 20 minutes behind me. Well, most of the other books, there's no one even watching. I mean, they won't even know till they wake up the next morning. So you can have the chosen bronze still available, but you can also get better prices on the horses that are in the race. So I did jump in and take better prices on the horses in the race. So you got to. It's a tool, and it's mostly a tool for anti-post stuff, which the Europeans or the British and the Irish do a lot more of.
Terrific. We appreciate all that information. The first horse we're going to talk about, and we're going to watch the video here, is a horse you're very interested in, and that is Shareholder in the Juvenile. Again, we're looking at the Turf Sprint. And by the way, Davey, if I told you the race that my horse was running in at Keeneland, you know the price that the horse was. The winner was 29-1. No, it was not my horse. Sorry, not my horse. Anyway, let's go on to Shareholder. Shareholder, we'll bring up the video. I'm going to take about halfway through. This is his Norfolk win for Wathnon Racing. What do you like about this horse? And tell us where he is right now in the video here as I run it through, David.
Side of the screen, red cap on the left-hand side of the screen.
Right here. Go ahead.
Group of 5. Yep, group of 5. There he is. Yep, there he is. So, well, he's broken. He's not a slow break. I mean, he broke quick. No problems with the break. And there's an interesting thing Doyle does here. He's had there's 2 races going on. He's won the first race against these 4 other horses. But Doyle is now, some people might think the horse is veering across. He's not. I don't think he is. I think Doyle is weary of where other horses, particularly Whistlejacket, are. And he wanted his horse to know that he was in a race, because otherwise the horse thinks, well, I've beaten these 4 here and happy days. And I think Doyle veered him over ever so slightly to make the horse aware that there's these other beasts coming up on his left-hand side. So good riding by Doyle to win the race.
There's the profile. There's the race 2 back, also won his debut. Did not run well at Deauville against Whistlejacket. What happened there?
Well, Deauville had, it was ground on the soft side of good to soft. The horse was running well for the first half of the race, but there was a certain point where there was a hole and the horse wasn't going through. It wasn't quickening up. So clearly the horse wasn't handling the ground. Now, the horse was good enough if Doyle wanted to get the whip out and drive him on and finish a credible sort of 4th or 5th in a Prix Mornay, a Group 1. But he chose not to. And that was where the penny dropped for me in terms of the bet for the horse. That I said to myself, well, why is this great horse doing this? I mean, he's given up on this race. He's saving the horse. That's all well and good. But what's the target? You've always got to think about what the target is. And knowing that the horse has had that form on good to firm, you say, well, Dan Moll's has got to be the target. It's Wathnon Racing. They want to be represented, and that's the target.
Davey, I'm bringing up that race as well now, and you can talk about it as well.
Okay, he's drawn on the right, red cap. He's following Whistlejacket in the green.
So this is Whistlejacket right here, who's also a major player, and then Shareholder in behind. Go ahead.
Right. So he's holding him up. The horse looks like he's ready to go. Doyle's keeping his space. He's following Whistlejacket. Nothing wrong with that. So here he goes, and he's not quite comfortable. Keep going.
Sorry for the button in the middle.
No problem. Just keep going. Yeah. So there's this. Pardon my lisp bit, and you can see he's eased him back.
Yeah. Now,
why has he done that? He's done that because he knows there's a target. He is the jockey for the group, and he has to ride the horse in the big race.
Yeah. He just sort of gave up right. No problem. He just sort of gave up right there. So, I think the point we want to make there is the margin of victory.
You often talk about horses. You often talk about horses that get beaten by a distance. Well, this horse was held back because of a target in the future. He was saving the horse. Easy. And then he thinks, why? Why are you getting excited about a horse that finished 9th? Because he's got a future target. Pardon my lisp, folks. I've got a little health issue lately, and it's affecting my.
It's no problem.
My talk, yeah.
It's all good, Davey. We appreciate that. We're just glad that you're feeling better and that you're on the show with us. Let's take a look at a few other horses, Davey, and then we're going to move on to the next race. Aesterius versus Big Mojo. Your thoughts on those two, and who might be better? They face each other a few times already.
Yeah, I'm not sure Big Mojo is nimble enough for going around the corner. Aesterius likes the firm ground. He's been held for this as well. If James Doyle ends up riding Aesterius, I'll have to reconsider my, and he could do. It's a toss-up. They're both good horses. They're both Group 1 horses, and Wafdan has bought the horses because they want to win big races. So, my feeling is that Aesterius it may be better in ratings, but I think Shareholder is the horse that has the I don't know the scope for this race.
Sure. Aesterius has beaten Big Mojo, I believe, once. They've traded off. I think based on the speed I expect here, I like Aesterius a little more than Big Mojo, just my personal opinion, but I don't think separates them much. Now, a horse we got to talk to, and we're not going to be able to talk about every single horse in detail. This horse on the screen here, Davey, Okoro Sieg, is a serious Japanese runner. I really like this horse quite a bit. You can see the time, actually, the times, 1:08.4, and then 1:07.1. I don't care what kind of track you're running on. For a 2-year-old to go 1:07.1, Davey, and that, by the way, is the fastest ever 2-year-old 6 furlong time in the history of the JRA. Right. This is a horse that was sold for $250,000 at the March OBS sale, which is a sale in Florida here in the States. Went 9 and change for an eighth of a mile in the workout in that sale by Twirling Candy out of a Burdenstein mare. This is my top choice as of now. Depending on the draw, Okoro Sieg is the real deal, Davey, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I've seen the replays. I've seen the times. Christophe Lemaire will no doubt be there. So it's matching up into a Qatari versus Japanese match for me. And no disrespect to the Peter Brandt horse. Ryan Moore aboard Aidan O'Brien. If that was any good, that horse would be really shorter in the market. There was a lot of hype about this horse earlier in the year. I noticed when it first won at one at the Curragh, and it won well by 3 or 4 lengths. It was like, wow, what a great win! But I watched him sort of veering across the track, all on his own. I wasn't quite convinced. So I think he's one of those fool's gold horses, So I'm
interesting.
I'm not. Yeah, I don't think he's. I think he needs to go further, and I'm not really sure why he's in the sprint. And I'm not. I don't. It's one of those horses where I'm not sure they'll ever quite know what he's supposed to be.
Okay. I do want to show a very quick comment from Aidan O'Brien, who's on our show. This is only about 10 seconds. This is Aidan O'Brien I'm going to bring on regarding Whistlejacket and his quick thoughts on Whistlejacket. Let me go ahead and bring that up on screen. Actually, hold on one second. Again, I'm going to have to mess around a little bit with some things here, but we're going to bring them up on screen here, and I'm going to have to turn on the sound. Actually, let me go ahead and take that off. Sorry. I'll get that set up for you. Let me do that here. There we go. I'm going to get it set up right now and show the sound, because it's important when you hear from these trainers, especially guys like Aidan O'Brien. Whoops. Gosh darn it. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, there's going to be some clicking here. When you hear from people like Aidan O'Brien, because there's signal in the noise, right, Davey?
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm not sure of the particular quote he's coming up with, but
here it comes.
Here it comes. Yeah.
Let's just go ahead and listen to Aidan O'Brien about Shareholder.
Paul, both of them are well. Whistlejacket has won a Group 1. He was second in Group 1 last time. We just felt maybe we didn't ride him forward enough, and then Idols of March.
So he just said maybe they didn't ride. That was Whistlejacket, excuse me. Yeah. But they didn't ride him well there, Davey, in his last.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Fair enough. But I don't think he's delivered, and he's he could have been one of those great horses the way he started the year, and that's what they were projecting. And if he was all of that, I mean, there's a filly Aidan O'Brien has that has been contracting in the market from 9 to 4 to 7 to 4 to 6 to 4 to 5 to 4. That's now 10 to 11. If I'm speaking about Lake Victoria. If Whistlejacket was that type of horse, he'd be doing the same thing. He's static in the market at like 7 to 1 or something. I mean, that tells you everything.
Right.
At least in the UK, because if he was that price in the UK and Ireland, people would be playing him already, falling over themselves, and they're not. And the price has been up for a while. So, well, I mean, they're not. Actually, Shareholder has contracted in the market a point, but most everything else is static. The Japanese horse is 9 to 2, and people are looking at that and they're wondering who it is because they've never heard of him. So,
Yes.
It only takes a few bets for a bookie to make a contraction. You'd be surprised. I mean, you could get out your phone right now and tap away and say, let's say, £100 win on the Japanese horse, and the next thing it'd be 7 to 2, because the bookies would be like, well, hold on,
Yes.
So these things are what you're never quite sure with the English bookies how much money is contracting a market, because they're looking at who the money is coming from, and they know who the shrewd money is and who the amateur money is.
We'll have to see how the money plays there. We're going to move on to the next race, Davey. We're not going to talk long here at all. The Juvenile Fillies Dirt race just has an interesting horse from Japan called American Bikini, who is 2 for 3, does show some speed. And I just want to mention to everyone out there that American Bikini, I think, is very interesting in the Juvenile Fillies Dirt race. It's a sort of a weak group from the United States, and these Japanese horses are coming over with intent. Of the 19 Japanese horses, Davey, this is one of probably, I would say, 3 that have a big shot, and I include Akoro Sieg in that. I think American Bikini, along with an older filly, could make some noise next week in California.
So you're thinking 2-0 to the Japanese, like before in the first?
Well, I'm not so sure, but I want to see how American Bikini is working over the track and whatnot, Davey. But this is a filly by American Fair out of a Bernardini mare. So there's plenty of dirt breeding and distance dirt breeding, and it's just the kind of horse that's fascinating that I think would be worth taking a shot. I think I've seen about 6 to 1, somewhere around there. Let me look at the anti-post right now. 9 to 2. Here we go. 9 to 2, Davey. Right now, that's a lot of money, and I know the Japanese and the Asian market is very strong, and they like to bet their horses. But I still feel, this is quite a bit of money that's coming in, at least anti-post to me.
Yeah, well, it's 4 to 1 with the bookie I mostly use, and it was 11 to 2, 5 to 1 maybe a week or two ago. So that just show a progression. That just show a trend. And you've got to keep that.
I was able to find some video that I wanted to show on Akoro C. Let me get it. Oh, actually, here's American Bikini. We can just watch a little. There's no sound here. Let's just watch a little bit of American Bikini right here. Thanks to the Money Media. Let's just go ahead and fast forward. Here's American Bikini on the inside. You see that she's quick, Davey, and she took some pressure in this race and ran very well here. So I do like what we see here from American Bikini. It's going to show some speed. I'll just go ahead and fast forward to the end. Here it is, Davey. This is pretty impressive right here. I like what I see here visually, Davey.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. There's American Bikini right there. Again, apologize for the, in the money, I'll take the free sponsorship. So anyway, we'll be showing some video as well. And I do also have a little video of, if I can find it very quickly, of Akoro Sieg. This is the sprinter that I like quite a bit, which is, just give me one moment here. Davey, the Japanese have proved themselves worldwide over the last few years, haven't they?
Yeah, everywhere. They've gone to Hong Kong. They've gone to France. They've never hit the arc. They're coming closer. Group 1's in the UK. I mean, the Breeders' Cup, particularly when they're in California, they're all over it. So
This is a
and their own
Corsica on the
their own
lead
racing is
going.
very good. You know,
I'm sorry, David. There is a delay, everyone. Just let people know when they're watching here replay. This is a Corsica in hand, Davey, on the lead, just very fast. I'm not sure what's really in behind here, but again, you're going to see the time. The jock finally asks, so the horse gets some experience with that, and you're going to see on the top of the screen there, 107 and change. That's just a very fast horse. Very fast horse.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Let's go ahead on.
We could very well be looking at 2-0 for the Japanese first two races.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me. It really. I know Immersive is going to take a lot of money, but wouldn't surprise me. Let's go on to the next race here. Like I said, thanks for watching, everyone. We got a lot of clicking of buttons. Just everyone, just be patient. We were trying to give everyone as much information as possible. Juvenile Fillies Turf, Davey. Here we are. Juvenile Fillies Turf. There are some of these horses that are not going. Bubbling is not going. I believe Anshota for David Lawnane is going with American ownership. You've got Celandine, I do believe, is not going. But there is one big horse. We got to talk about this horse first. Lake Victoria for Aiden is coming. Yeah. Davey, I think it's fair to say Lake Victoria might be the most accomplished 2-year-old from Europe in the history of the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. And it's been bubbling to borrow the other term, but throughout the season, I mean, she was brought over for a Group 3 in Britain when all the big Irish horses were running in Ireland, and Ryan Moore was over in Ireland. So they found a race for, if you look back on their form there, that would be the Newmarket race, the Sweet Solera, the Group 3, where Sean Levy, and we'll come to him later, he got the ride. He former apprentice jockey at O'Brien's Yard. So he's been sort of like, they've been tightening. And finally, when it really mattered, the Cheveley Park, the Group 1 at Newmarket, which in some respects, you're looking at that as a prep for a Guineas. You know, how does it handle the dip, as they famously say? Well, it did. And if you look at the replay, that's exactly when the horse exploded, when they're going slightly up the hill. And it's quite impressive. It's not only impressive because it won well. There's a horse in there. It was a Group 1 winner from Ireland, a Jer Lyons horse for Juddmonte, which a lot of really smart people had felt was going to be, you know, the winner of that race because of its form in Ireland that year. You can see the Juddmonte colours, and it's tracking Lake Victoria there. And you're thinking, well, what's going to happen here? And then there's really not much to say. I mean, you've got a Wathan horse in there as well. So all the big crew are there. And just
when they push the button, Davey, I mean, wow, this acceleration is serious. Now this is 6 furlongs, but this acceleration is instant and impressive.
Yeah. Look at it. And the horse is reaching for it. You know, it's not. Look at that.
Yeah, really good. And she's won going 7. And one of the races, Davey, that she won, she was in behind horses and angled out and blew by the whole field. And we have a quote from Aiden about Lake Victoria, but you do like to see the versatility with these Euros. She can come from behind. She can go to the lead. She can do whatever the F she wants, basically. She's going to be very tough. Do you think she will be? I'm assuming she'll be tracking in this race, you know, just off the pace. I'm not sure that Aiden really wants her on the lead unless she's just so much better than everyone else. I'll get a quote on Lake Victoria in just a moment. But what are your thoughts on how she'll be ridden in this race, just in your gut feeling?
Well, I mean, a lot of it is we don't know the draw, so it's hard for me to speculate on that. Really, it's sort of like we're you know, I mean, how many horses are in the race? 14?
Probably up to 14 is possible. Yes. So and it's not a long run into the first turn, so she's going to have to be used a little bit early, obviously.
So what happens if she draws 14?
That would be one of the ways that she can get beat, Davey. Let's be honest about it, right?
Yeah, right. So, you know, this is the game. It's all, you know, as Mike Tyson said, everyone's got a plan to get smacked in the mouth, you know, and getting drawn 14 is the proverbial getting smacked in the mouth, right? I mean, as you're a punter, you know, you've already seen the horse win, and the next thing you know, you've got to realize you've got to go through the position draw, and then all of a sudden you forgot about that, and the next thing your horse is in the car park, and it's a lot all of a sudden your money's on the line, and you're like, well, how did I lose? Well, you were drawn 14, and you couldn't get around the curve, and that was it. You were chasing your tail from the rest from there on in.
Let's hear what Aidan had to say in our interview about the very impressive Lake Victoria.
She's a lovely filly. She's done everything we've asked from her. It's unusual. She won her maiden over 7, then her group race over 7, and then another Group 1 over 7, and then she went back and won a Group 1 over 6. So, like what you said, she's made the run, and she's been ridden from the back, and she looks a kind of a unique kind of filly, really.
Davey, when Aidan O'Brien says she's a unique kind of filly, that's basically a normal person saying she's freaking unbelievable.
Yeah, he's
right.
He's an understated kind of guy, and yeah, exactly. That's what he's saying. And it is interesting that he's bringing her here because, I mean, in the past it would have been like, well, this is going to be our Guineas filly, and we're going to keep her in cotton wool, and we're going to do this, we're going to do that. They're not doing that with this. I mean, I know they've got other horses. I mean, Bedtime Story was the big thing at Ascot, and everyone got excited. So they've got a big stable of them, but they're striking while the iron's hot. Maybe they've learned their lesson as well. You can often talk about what you're going to be, and then you wake up after the winter, and all of a sudden the horse is a different horse. So you've got to
Yeah. Hey, Davey, we have a question in the chat from good friend and host of Pacific Horse Players, Noah Maher.
Yeah.
So, hello, Noah. Thanks. Listen, any questions for Davy Lane, ladies and gentlemen? I'll try to get as many questions as possible. Thoughts on Fire? It's actually Fiery Lucy. He misspelled. Fiery Lucy. Think she'll appreciate the mile. Interested to see how she takes to the firm. Maybe Cold Punch, Lake Victoria. Fiery Lucy Exactor. What do you think about Fiery Lucy? Any chance at all to be a factor in this race, Davey? I'll show the past performances on the screen.
Yeah. I'm not against the idea. To be honest, I wouldn't be having such a bet. I think you've got a good win bet here. You can double your money, and I don't see the point really of trying to complicate that. Particularly,
Davey, I've got a good friend who's thinking about doubling his money big time in this race with Lake Victoria. I think you and I both know who that friend might be. Who's playing in a big contest with me as well. So, is even Davey? Is
that guy?
Would it be fair to say that even money evens is actually fair value on Lake Victoria?
Yeah. I would say it's a good price. The horse is now 10 to 11 here in the UK.
There you go, 10 to 11.
On my chosen bookie. And I dare say that'll be an 8 to value.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go on.
Good value. I mean, the Cromwell horses, I mean, he's a dual purpose trainer, Cromwell. He can come up. So that's a good shout, but I don't know. I would just go around and think about doubling your money in that respect.
Okay. Let's go on. Let's move on, Davey.
The
Juvenile.
I don't see the distance being a problem for the horse.
Okay.
So,
the Juvenile Dirt race again. There is a delay, and it looks like Davey's having a little bit of internet issue. So bear with us. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. This is live podcast here Friday afternoon. Thanks for joining us here at the HHH Racing Podcast. The Breeders' Cup Juvenile does have two Japanese entrants. I don't think either one of them is going to be a factor. Let's move on, Davey, to the Juvenile Turf. This is a fascinating race. Let me go show everyone the pre-entries. You've got 2 for Godolphin. They both are confirmed going as of this podcast Friday afternoon here a week before the Breeders' Cup. You got Henri Matisse for Aiden. Monumental is not going for Aiden. New Century will also be going for Andrew Balding, looking for his first Breeders' Cup win. There's a nice Japanese horse. Seagull's 11 for Hugo Palmer and the Waco Kid. They are both coming as far as I know. Davey, I think this is a pretty darn good Juvenile Turf, and I think it's pretty open. Your initial thoughts before we get into details of horses. Whoop. Davey, we can't hear you right now. I don't. Are you muted, Davey? We're having
Well,
trouble hearing
it's a
you.
great betting race, and it's actually probably my biggest tip for the show. Actually, coming up right now.
Biggest tip of the show. Okay, go ahead.
You can't hear me?
We can hear you now. Go ahead.
Can you
Yes,
hear me?
go ahead. Yes.
Hello, Howard?
We can hear you, Davey. I can hear you, Davey. Oh, he's
yeah,
gonna
you
leave.
hit that? Yeah. You can hear me now.
Go.
Yeah. I mean, this would be. I don't want to. We can hear me. For me, this would be. Yeah, good. So I can hear you too. So we can. What's going on? I can hear you, Howard. We're good. I'm talking. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay. Well, it's ironically, Davey just said one of his favorite tip of the show here, and then we're having some technical difficulties. Davey, can you hear me okay?
Okay. Are we good?
Can you hear me, Davey? Okay. No.
All right. I think one of my pages crashed, and I can hear you. Yeah, we're back online now. We're talking. Yeah, pages and so on. Yeah. So, I mean, I was looking at a couple of horses on this, and my biggest shout would have been one horse, Amore City, and then it sort of grew on me that really my secondary shout was actually gnawing away and knocking on the door and saying, "Hold on a minute, I'm actually the big bet. I'm actually the bet that you need to be making," and that horse would be the Waco Kid.
Okay.
So,
Davey, can you hear me okay right now? Can you hear me, Davey?
I can hear you clear as a bell hammer.
Okay, great. So the Waco Kid for Hugo Palmer is one of Davey's big plays of the entire weekend, and I believe we have some video to show, right, Davey?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me go ahead. What do you like about? Whoop, didn't want to show that. Sorry. What do you like about him in general? As I'm going to show the video. This is the Tattersall Stakes. It's a Group 3 that I'm going to bring up. I'm going to bring up right now on screen here, Davey. And let me bring it up right now. Here we go. The Waco Kid, the 7 horse right here on the lead.
All right. The 7 horse in the blue goes straight to the rail, breaks pretty good, gets up to the rail. Ocean Murphy riding, and it's soft ground. So you're saying to yourself, well, what does that prove? Well, back in the form, you see it running away here. Let's just follow the horse for a minute before I carry on. He's beating a Watnan horse. He's beating a Coolmore horse. I think that's Monumental in 3rd place. That was a horse. And then in the gallop out, he just keeps going. Look at the ears. The horse just keeps going. So any concerns about the distance have to be negated from watching this, because this is over softer ground. He's just disappearing into the horizon. Now you say to yourself, that was over soft. What's the big deal? Well, during the heat of the summer, he won emphatically over a lesser race, but he won on good to firm, and he won really well. So you say to yourself, well, why do I like this horse? You know, and the clue isn't necessarily in the times or what's going on, but the clue for me is in a lot of things of what the jockeys and trainers have said in interviews. And these are the shards of information that you have to pull together to pull out the projection of a horse that can win, as opposed to you looking in the past. So I'll give you the example. On that day, that trainer, Hugo Palmer, let's talk about that trainer for a while. He's mostly known as a trainer of sprinters. So, and he's had a bad few years. When I say bad, his percentages have been quite low, but he's done very well this year. So he's back in the loop. He recently moved up to the north of England from the south, so that's quite a reverse commute. Now, he had when he won that race, Ocean Murphy was very quick to talk about, is he going into the Group 1 Dewhurst? And the trainer admitted in an interview that he wasn't, and he was also pulled out of Jean-Luc Lagardère at Longchamp. So you say to yourself, well, what's going on? And further on in the interview, he talks about, we might go to the Breeders' Cup. And I say to myself, hold on a minute. he's pulled the horse out of quite a few races in Britain, and he's actually got them lined up to go to Del Mar.
Yes.
That's the plan all along. Now,
Yeah.
The horse is by Mehmet. It'll get the distance. We just showed you the 7 furlong race where he kept going. It'll get the distance, and it speaks volumes. He'll skip around Del Mar. Now here's an issue. O.C. Murphy is contracted to ride the Qatar horse, so you got to watch for jockey booking. And who knows? Maybe the Qataris might buy the horse prior to the race. Who knows? So that's my horse for the. It's 10-1 at the moment.
All right.
That's
the
my
Waco Kid. I remember that name. The Waco Kid is Davy's play of the day on Friday for sure, and perhaps even the weekend. Good luck with him, Davy. I want to very quickly talk about Henri Matisse, who's going to take a lot of money for Aidan O'Brien. I'm assuming Ryan Moore is going to ride this one. You and I have different opinions on Henri Matisse. I'm not going to show any replays today. You think that he's just very goofy and immature and will be over bet. I think that there's a decent amount of early speed in this race, and he's going to come flying late and be a major factor. Give everyone your quick opinions of Henri Matisse, and then we're going to hear from Aidan O'Brien, who talked about this horse on our show a few days ago.
I think the horse is green. He was there's a race at the Curragh where he lost to the Scotty champ, a Joseph O'Brien horse, and he had every reason to win the race. But every time he was put into the race and showing the whip, he veered to the left, he veered to the right. He's a headbanger, and headbangers don't last very long at O'Brien's yard. I'm surprised. He's coming here. I think they're just going to try him and see what he can do. But
sure,
he's not really a horse for me. That he's a horse that will be bought because of O'Brien and Ryan Moore. You disagree, but there you go.
It's a fair point. Let's hear 20 seconds from Aidan O'Brien on our show a few days ago about the talented 2-year-old colt Henri Matisse going in the Juvenile Turf. I'm going to go ahead and bring it up on screen here in just a moment. Everyone can decide for themselves what Aidan has said here as I bring it up right now. Here's Aidan speaking about Henri Matisse.
Matisse, we put blinkers on the last day and probably wasn't the right thing. He got a bad bump early and he kind of got a little bit shocked by it. He was probably a little bit immature for it. The ground was soft. He's a beautiful, good moving colt. We always thought he was very classy, and he stayed in very good form since the run. So we just felt it might be a nice opportunity for him.
You're not buying it, Davey, though, respectfully.
No, I don't buy that. No.
Okay. Well, that's we'll let everyone at home make those decisions, and we'll see. Obviously, I usually tip my cap to you on these kind of things, and maybe Del Mar might not be great for him. They are taking blinkers off, though, Henri Matisse for this race. There are sharper turns. He's going to have to be professional, Davey, if he wants to win that race. You just have a lot of doubts on whether he will be. Let's go on to Saturday.
Let's do that.
Okay, let's go on to Saturday, Davey. We have a few races to look at here. Again, this is going to be a longer show. Everyone bear with us because we do want to cover as much as possible. If there's a race that you don't want to hear or a horse that you don't want to hear, feel free later on, if you're watching this replay, to fast forward. Before we do that, Davey, I do want to very quickly plug something that we have here on our podcast that's very important to me. We have Power Pick Tip Sheet is available. You go to our podcast, our website, hhhracingpodcast.com. Look at the blue banner at the top. It's over 30 pages of information, Davey, for a very inexpensive price. It's very profitable. I know that you are a subscriber to our Power Picks Tip Sheet, and I'm not going to ask you to laud its praises, but I will say, in general, Davey, we give a lot of really good information, and I recommend, especially the UK punters might be listening, we'll have plenty of information on them as well.
Yeah, I mean, every Saturday at 2 p.m. UK time, or 1 minute to 2, I pick up my phone and I say, where's Howard's picks today, And
Well,
lo and
we
behold, the
appreciate
time to
that.
come in at 2 o'clock, and it gives me a good clue, and it allows me to stitch together some bets at the tail end of the day in the UK with the evenings in the States, and I like to do that. So our spot
Di-
plays are interesting because they're not always about the winner. They're often about
Right.
a tri-cast play or something like that. So
Yep.
and there's also grids from Howard and Paul and Pete and the other guys on the team, Kyle and so on, who give you their views, and they're also very useful because when you see, as a foreigner looking at, we don't really play your pick fives and pick sixes, although they're
Right.
now more and more available. But we're not in the habit of doing it. I got to get more into the habit of doing it actually. But you can see that if you've got a grid and you've got the race 8 and you've got 1A in that horse in that race. I mean, that's a hot favorite generally, and you can rely on that generally.
Yes.
So,
Davey, let's go on to Saturday. Do you need a minute break, or would you like us to continue?
No, keep going. I had a little spell there. I've got a little thing I'm dealing with, folks. So I've had a little flare up when I was speaking.
No problem. It's all good. Let's go on to Saturday. I find the first race Saturday fascinating. It's the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, which has usually been dominated by the American horses. There has been a winner before, but usually from Europe, but it's mainly dominated by the Americans. But there's, one American, of course, Cogburn is unbelievable. One of the best turf sprinters I think we've ever seen in the States. But I'll tell you what, I think he's got his handful, and I don't think this is any given at all. Some of the horses we're going to quickly talk about. You got Big Evs, who won last year, but it's not quite the same as this year, won the juvenile race last year. Bradsell and Believing are two very talented horses, especially Bradsell. And Davey, I've looked at plenty of speed figs. According to many speed figures and people I respect, Bradsell is just as fast. So Bradsell's a serious player. Believing has not been far off of Bradsell. I know you're a little bit interested in Izzy Vungu Vungu from South Africa. Star of Mystery has been riding in the United States, or been running in the United States for Apple. But Star of Mystery is a very talented 3-year-old filly. Aesop's Fables is probably won't be a factor. Who do you want to talk about first here in a loaded turf sprint?
Well, let's just get through the English ones. And we got Big Evs coming back. Now, that won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile last year, so Juvenile Turf Sprint. So that has to be a factor. It's tighter at Del Mar than Santa Anita, isn't it? Obviously, right?
Yes, a little bit, yes.
Yeah, so I think that counts against Big Evs. Believing started the season with a race in Hong Kong in April. So that's been on the go a long time, a lot of traveling. Yeah. And I think that'll count against it. Bradsell was nosed
Hey, Davey,
off.
Can I ask you about Believing real quick? I have a question. Yeah. So
go on.
I know some European punters believe that Believing, no pun intended, has been unlucky that she's been drawing away from the speed on these straight courses and has been unlucky. Has Believing been unlucky or just not good enough, or both, in your opinion?
Well, unlucky and needing the firm turf. I mean, it went to Hong Kong expecting to get firm turf, and it was a deluge the day before. So it's unlucky. So it's going to get its turf that it needs. It'll probably have Ryan Moore aboard, unless Aesop. I'm not sure if Aesop's Fables is going or not.
Yeah, we're not sure yet.
Yeah, the last market I looked at, he wasn't in there, so I've got a feeling he might scratch. So Ryan Moore will be on, and that could be the difference.
Okay.
So that and it's a menace, this horse should dance around there. So
sure,
yeah, it's got a chance. I mean, I've bet Believing in the past, and I've lost every time. Like if you second, third, whatever. So
Bradsell's had an interesting career. Had 2 long breaks in 22 and 23. But he has been outstanding this year with Holly Doyle, just simply one of the best riders in the world, male or female, and Bradsell likes to be forward, Davey. So if Bradsell breaks, he's not going to be that far off the speed here, and in theory, won't be that far off of Cogburn.
But again, we're talking about something without knowing the draw, so it's very difficult. But Bradsell will break. I mean, it lost in the Abbey, the 5 furlong straight race in France, to a perennial Group 3 horse or a listed horse.
Yes.
And that was a surprise. So, yes, his speed, his figures are high and so on. But it's his last race, I believe, before retiring. And so, one go at the well. I'm against it, definite chance for a place, but I think someone will be just quicker on the.
That race was on soft ground that he lost on, in all fairness, at Longchamp.
Exactly. So they're all looking for firm ground, and that's why they're here. Of course. Yeah. And one thing I was impressed with Star of Mystery's defeat, and I know it was at Keeneland a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
I mean, it came like a train. It was boxed in.
She had a lot of bad luck in that race. She should have won. Let's talk for a minute about the South African horse. I know you fancy this horse a bit.
Yeah, I do. I mean, South Africans, and there's a couple of things. I touted a South African horse last year, and it was a winner of a group winning your in race. This horse has been beating top South African sprinters time and again, and it's coming because it won the winning your in race, but it's also been winning other big Group 1 races. So it's got a serious pedigree. It's got a serious form line here. Look, it's a veteran of sprints. And these sprinters get better as they get older and more like attuned to what they have to do. I find anyway. And have you got a video of that horse?
I do not. I'm sorry, but the race was in New York, so everyone here in the States, especially, can easily find that race, Davey.
Well, there's a race in Johannesburg that I think I can put up on the Twitter later, Turpentine. Okay. And the reason I like the race, he was drawn on the wrong side. He broke like a cat out of hell. And then he was held up mid-race. And then he was like wound up for the last 2 furlongs. So he's got great gate speed. He follows instructions. And he's got guts at the end. And he knows what he's doing. And if you think of the great South African sprinters, JJ the jet plane, Shay, I mean, they're all right there. And this horse has been beating fellow South African sprinters time and again. I wouldn't sleep on him. And Manny Franco knows his way around a rough and tumble race.
Okay.
Now, all I'm saying is that he's 25 to 1, and he's no worse than a horse that's 10 to 1.
Okay, there you go. It's all about value, Davey. We appreciate it. Let's go on to the next race now. The next race on the card is the Distaff, and Davey, there is major news today with a horse called Idiomatic, who was going to give another horse that we know here in the States very well, Torpedo Anna, all that she wanted, but unfortunately, Idiomatic is out of the Distaff. We just found that out today, Friday. I want to quickly mention a Japanese horse named Awesome Result. Wow, would that be a pun intended if this Japanese runner won? This is a Justify filly. Does that breeding sound familiar? I think there's a horse later we're going to talk about, but there's a Justify filly who's 7 for 7. I'm not sure who she's beaten, but from what I've heard, Davey, her numbers are actually pretty good. She gets the distance. I think a Cold Punch, Torpedo, Awesome Result, Exacta, or for me, might be the play in that race. Let's go ahead on to the next race that has the Euros in it, and that is the Turf. Now, the Turf date.
One other thing, just to go back, the AE, the first AE in that race, the sprint, is Howard Wolfowitz.
In the Turf Sprint, yes. The Turf Sprint,
And I believe that horse will get in the race.
Okay.
And that horse, just for people to know, has an entry in the Hong Kong Sprint in December.
Interesting.
Now, I often
tell us why that matters, Davey.
It matters to me because to me it shows that connections. It shows that the trajectory is up. It shows that they're not plateauing. They're not hiding the horse away. They're not reached their goals. Is that they've got plans and the horse is getting better and better and better and better. And its last win at Kentucky Downs was quite impressive with Irad. So I wouldn't sleep on him either. Particularly if you're a punter in the UK, and the bookies haven't realised that the horse is an AE that's going to get in the race, and they probably haven't realised that Irad's going to be on board. And the next thing you know, the horse runs really well, and bingo, you've got a 20-1 shot horse that on the day of the race with Irad on. I mean, what price will a horse go off in the States with Irad?
In the 20s.
He's
in that
20
race
right
in the 20s. Oh, yeah.
in the 20s, even with
Yes.
Irad.
Yes, for sure. Well, these are the best jockeys in the world, Davey, right? So, I mean, they're all great jockeys. I mean,
Right.
you know.
Okay. I thought he'd be shorter than that on the day. But anyway, okay. So I wouldn't sleep on him either. But
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Howard Wallerwitz, remember that name a little bit as a possible roughie, as they say, over on the other side of the pond in the sprint. Real quick I want to recognize the chat, Davey. Eric, what's up, Eric? Hello. Scorpion mentioned Illinois is not coming. That is correct. Even though I live in Illinois, the horse Illinois is not going to be running at Del Mar per Aidan O'Brien. That is correct. Also, Davey got a shout out from Laureen Waltman. Wants to say hello, Davey. So hello, Laureen. Thank you very much for joining the show. Okay, just want to recognize a few chats. Now, Davey, the Breeders' Cup Turf, first of all, has been won by Aidan O'Brien a record 7 times. Aidan O'Brien has won the Breeders' Cup Turf 7 times. Most recent with High Chaparral in 2003, I believe. Also won with St. Nicholas Abbey, Magician Found. Auguste Rodin, I apologize. Auguste Rodin won last year, which I was obviously, as you know, that was my biggest tout of the entire weekend. This year's Breeders' Cup Turf, Davey, these are not the best. This is not a strong contingent. This is an absolutely wide open race. Where do you want to start in the Breeders' Cup Turf of the first big race on Saturday? Here are the pre-entries on the screen. It looks like we're having sound.
Well, you've got to go with the latest news. Okay.
Yes.
The latest news being. Well, I can hear you. Can you hear me? The latest news being that Emily Upjohn's announced to go into this race. Why? Because John Gosden has woke up and he's looked at the field and he said to himself, "My God, my horse, which is basically on the downward slope, can go over there. It's been battling on, but she's not what she was. I can go over there and beat Luxembourg and beat a couple of American Group 3 or Grade 3 horses and come back with a few million on what's been a very poor year for Gosden, by the way. He's not had his winners as usual. So this is a chance for him to get some bucks into the bank, and the horse could very well win. I mean, she's probably on figures the best horse in the race now that I think about it.
Yeah. Hey, Davey, I'm sorry. I do have Turf Sprint video on the South African. You want me to show that, or do you want to move on?
Oh yeah, go back and show it, because I think people would find that interesting, because not many people would have seen this at all, and it takes some digging out on the Twitter and so on. But if you have it there, let's watch.
I'm bringing up. This is actually from South Africa.
Ready, Johnson Workby, computer bomb spread. Let's.
Where is the horse here? What?
On the right-hand side in the yellow. Right-hand side on the yellow.
Okay, the 4 horse there. It looks like
you'll see it now.
Right here, right, Davey? This one.
Right-hand side on the yellow.
Yeah.
In the yellow. And the jockey's watching. The pace is now on the left. There's the horse on the left-hand side with the white blaze in the face. But that horse broke first. That horse broke 2. Yeah, he broke way ahead of everybody else, and then the pace came through on his left, and the jockey held him up, and then the horse takes off.
Sure.
Good horse.
Okay, let's get back to the turf.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the turf, Davey. The first horse you want to talk about is a talented 3-year-old, and there are a bunch of 3-year-olds that have won this race. You want to talk about JRB, and we're going to watch a replay of JRB from France in just a moment. As I pull up the PPs, talk about JRB.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd wanted to go with Luxembourg. I mean, it was going to be O'Brien and Moore. It's a weak contest, etc., etc., and it all made sense. But I mean, and now you've got Emily Upjohn and the Ryan Moore, Aidan O'Brien. But the price, the value is in this horse. It's 7-1 at the moment. It just beat recently the horse that won the British Champion Stakes in a Group 2, the Group 2 pre-dollar Longchamp. That was the day before the Arc. And that was in ground that was sort of softish. It won a Group 3 at Royal Ascot this year, went in good to firm ground. So Delmar will work for him. The jockey, Swaziland-born jockey, who grew up as an apprentice. His father was a work rider for O'Brien. Grew up as an apprentice for Aidan O'Brien. He actually rode Late Victoria at that Newmarket race. And he also got the ride on the classic win in the St. Leger on Jan Bruegel, who's now in Melbourne, Australia for the Melbourne Cup a couple of days later. So that's a good jockey. He's won 2 classics this year. Irish Guineas and the St. Leger. And this on Rosalian, his horse, arguably the best horse in Britain this year. So he's a great jockey. He's got a great chance on a horse with the former kebab shop guy, the Mad Pun. Do you know the owner of this horse, Howard? You know this guy?
Who is that?
He's a British-Iranian guy who's known as a mad poker player and likes to get into parties and get into wild poker contests. And
sounds like fun to me, Davey.
Yeah, you can have some serious fun with this guy. So you should look at his name and Google him and look it up. It's very, very interesting.
Davey, my concern, and this horse is a progressive 3-year-old. There is other speed in this race, and this replay, while it's impressive, looked like it was a very slow pace early. I don't think he's going to get away with that. That being at Del Mar, but that being said, he strides out well and he's improving, and this race is completely wide open. He's in orange here.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the known, and no disrespect, but Emily Upjohn and Luxembourg, their trajectory is down, right? So take a swing with a horse that's got an upward trajectory. That's all.
Sure. I don't look. I wouldn't poo-poo anyone for going with that play at all. It's really interesting to see. Now you mentioned Luxembourg. Let's talk about Luxembourg as I go back and bring up this right now. And this is just my initial thought. This is my initial run through. My initial run through is Luxembourg's one of my top choices. He is a 5-year-old, and we're going to hear from Aidan in just a moment, Davey. This horse, how about this? I don't know if you know this, Davey. Luxembourg has Group 1 wins at age 2, 3, 4, and 5. That is very impressive, Davey. He's run huge in Hong Kong. He won the Coronation Cup earlier this year, and he's lost to horses like Economics and Goliath and Romantic Warrior. In a weird way, isn't this almost a step down in class in the big Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Turf, Davey?
Yeah, I mean, he was my first choice. I probably overthought it. when I was trying to make a case for JRB. I mean, in theory, Luxembourg's the best horse here. Well, I'm talking about before I realized Emily Upjohn was in the race. So I wasn't prepared for that until like an hour or two ago.
Yes.
So it's hard to readjust that. So in theory, it could just be, a great big battle between Gosden and O'Brien, and my horse is probably in over his head because he's a 3-year-old, almost 4. So maybe that's the try play. I mean, are there any American horses that can pull anything out? Gold Phoenix or anything? Are they good enough?
The American horses are very weak in general. Farbridge for Clement is coming on and is improved this year, but he's been beating some Godolphin horses that have been disappointing lately, like Silver Knot. I just don't think Farbridge classes up. And even a B- Euro, I think will win this race. I don't see it from the Americans. And let's go ahead and listen, because I thought Aidan said something very interesting on our show, Davey. about
Yeah.
Luxembourg. And let me go ahead and cue it up because again, Aidan O'Brien, plays it close to the best, right? He's honest, but he is also not going to be, lauding a praise of a horse too much. And I think what he said in this interview to me means quite a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it on just a second. But so you think Luxembourg in general, as I bring up the audio from Aidan, is probably a use and a horizontal bet, but not your top choice. Is that fair to say, Davey?
Correct.
Okay.
But now that I see Emily Upjohn in the race, I don't know. I mean,
that makes it a little more confounding, a little harder for you.
Yeah.
All right. Let's hear what Aidan has to say. This is 20 seconds from Aidan O'Brien, just this past Thursday, the 24th of October, and then I'll let you react. So let me bring it on screen. And here is Aidan O'Brien talking about Luxembourg. Proper form.
Yeah, I'd agree, Howard, and that's it. And usually this time of year he comes back very well anyway, and he was kind of playing second fiddle a little bit to a lot of our horses up to now. He's got through it all. He took it like a man, and he's kind of sticking his chest out, showing that he's kind of ready to go again and leave him go by himself. So that's what we're thinking of doing.
Davey, he's sticking his chest out and feeling good. That can only be a positive, obviously. But again, you're a bit you're not buying it necessarily.
No, I am. That's a good clue. I mean, he's basically giving you a wink that you shouldn't look away from this horse. That's what he's saying.
I would agree.
And hold on while I make a bet.
Yeah, exactly. Now there's also.
As I said, that's my instinct horse. That's the one I defaulted to immediately, and then you start thinking about it. You know when you sort of talk yourself off the winner, somehow.
Well, Davey, is this horse? This horse is going to be the favorite. Talk how you feel on Rebels Romance, who won the Breeders' Cup Turf in 22. Although I will say that was a very weak edition of this race, but people can make that same argument this year. He's danced every dance. He's a worldwide traveler. He is 6 years old. And Davey, how about this statistic? Is everyone ready for this? 6-year-olds and up in the Breeders' Cup Turf are 0 for 55. A 6-year-old racehorse or older has never won in the 40 years of the Breeders' Cup Turf. To me, that does matter a little bit. This might be the exception. Your quick thoughts on Rebels Romance here?
I don't think it would be the exception. I prefer Luxembourg more. People say it's won races all over the world, but winning the race in Qatar, winning a couple of weaker like 5-horse races in Germany and so on. Some good horses in Germany, but it was only running against 5 horses. So 4 horses. So I think the horse is done. I wasn't impressed with it.
Wow.
William Bruick stole that Dubai race, the more recent Dubai win. And that Breeders' Cup previously was very weak. It's not for me. I mean, I've got fellow punting friends who swear by the horse and convinced he's a certainty in this race. I'm not in that camp.
Okay.
I would keep him out of the try. Emily Upjohn, I think, is done, but I think this is such a weak race. She probably gets in the top 3, and ditto Luxembourg. I think the bet might be to put those 2 horses in the try with JRB and keep Rebels Romance out, even though Rebels Romance is only the favorite.
I want to mention 2 Japanese horses that we're not going to discuss very much, but I do want to mention them, and then we'll go on to the next race. Roshan Park, I don't think he's going to win, but at a huge price, I wouldn't completely discount him. He's run some big races. He was a few lengths off of Luxembourg in December last year. He's an interesting long shot to throw in maybe a roughie underneath. And then what do you do about Shahryar, who you tipped out on this show, Davey, last year? He had a breathing issue, came back. And if it wasn't for you could almost argue, questionable ride from DeMuro on the turn that allowed Auguste Rodin to actually win the race, Shahryar might have won last year, but he is in good form as he was this year.
Yeah, he's not in as good form, and the horse, let's face it, hasn't won a race since in 3 years, maybe, is it something like this? And he's also how old is Shahryar? 6?
Shahryar is 6 years old, so there you go.
Well, there you go. So, no, I would be against. It'd be interesting to see who rides it, but I would be against. And Rusum Bay also is a...
Yep.
Listen, it's a big race in Japan this weekend, the Tenno show. Every good Japanese middle distance horses there. They're not shipping their best horses to this. So these two horses are afterthoughts. So that leads you back to Luxembourg and Emily Upjohn, which are two good European Group 1 horses. So that's not too bad.
Davey, I'm desperately looking for a good closer, someone to come from behind in that race. I just can't find one right now. So I don't know exactly what I'm going to do. City of Troy. Look, we've talked about this horse ad nauseum, Davey.
Yeah.
I don't want to go on very long about City of Troy, although I do have some Aiden tape or some video I want to show. It's very simple. Will City of Troy take to the dirt? What's your gut feeling on City of Troy a week from tomorrow at the Breeders' Cup Classic?
I think it takes to the dirt. And I think it runs a spanking good race. And, I think it might win, but, maybe someone will outclose him. I don't know. Maybe our old friend from...
oh, boy. Sierra Leone, huh?
Here we go, huh? Yeah. I mean, Sierra Leone comes and nails him on the line. I don't know.
Oh, my goodness. That would be completely
We've got roughly the same connections. So I don't know how that would play. I mean, this is a breeding game. There's big money at stake here. I don't know who's going to have the ride for Sierra Leone. Pratt, I assume.
Pratt.
Right?
I believe it is Pratt, yes.
I mean, if you've got City of Troy, in the last half a furlong closing in on the line, and you've got breeding fees of like upwards of 300,000 to go or something like this, and Pratt comes along with Sierra Leone with his wonky leg and nails them on the line. I mean, that's a bad business move, isn't it? I mean,
well, they finished 1-2 in a $7 million race. But how much would the stud fee increase on City of Troy if he wins the Breeders' Cup Classic, Davey?
Massively. I mean, let's not be naive about this. But the jockeys are all aware of this game. I mean, they're not. They're aware of the big business, right? I mean, come on. So I don't see Flavian Pratt going all out to for these connections to knock off City of Troy.
He's not gonna not try to win as hard, Davey, if it comes to.
Well, I know that, but I can't see him giving everything to just sneak it on the line. Put it that way.
I hear what you're saying. That's quite interesting. Let's hear from Aidan O'Brien about City of Troy, and then, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be let's give about 15 or 20 minutes left in the show just to get everyone, because we have to talk about the Mare Turf and the mile. So please, again, we thank everyone for watching. We know it's a longer podcast, but I hope everyone's enjoying it. It's well worth it, I believe, or will be for your pocketbook. Let's hear from Aidan O'Brien on his thoughts a little bit on City of Troy, the amazing Justify Colts, as I bring it up on screen right now. And here we go from our interview with Aidan.
I suppose he's obviously by Justified. He's a very high cruiser. He gets the trip very well, and
excuse me.
He's tactically usually quick from the gate. So I suppose a combination of all those things, really, Paul.
Yeah, he's got a lot of things going for him, Davey, and he's the kind of horse that can win on dirt in the United States because he is forward.
Yeah, and that's what you need. And
yes.
I mean, let's face it, they finally learned the lesson. They finally learned about gate speed. I actually think it was, Wesley Ward got quite close to the Coolmore guys in recent years, and I think he really impressed upon them the value of getting out of the gate. I mean, they then invested in the American. I mean, they finally bought an American gate to bring to Coolmore. They practiced on it. I mean, you see how sports have evolved in recent years. People take more time to how a soccer player will do a throw in or a corner. I mean, they have coaches doing all this. The Americanization of it. They've got specialist coaches doing subtle things. Well, horse racing has finally caught up to that. I mean, Wesley Ward was ahead of his game. He was getting yards and yards out of guys by by getting. He would sit down on a deck chair, wouldn't he, and get these horses in the gate and out and out and out. Well, finally, someone like Coolmore realized that that's what you got to do to win an American race, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So they've learned. So and this horse has learned as well, and this horse will pop out of the gate.
No doubt about it. There's two Japanese. Dermasotogake, I think, is a mystery. I don't love him here, but he's not impossible. Right now, I'm a big Forever Young fan, Davey. I've been talking about this for quite a while. I think he's coming to the race well. If he breaks, he has a tendency to not break wonderfully from the stalls. If he can break even halfway decent, I think Forever Young is going to be a major factor in the Breeders' Cup Classic. He is my top choice right now. You got Ushpa Tesoro also. It's a nice field. Let's get on to the last two races, Davey. The Filly and Mare Turf. This race now does not have Emily Upjohn. Emily Upjohn is going to the Classic. This race to me is completely wide open. I don't have a good feel for this race at all. And I have to be honest, this is one of the worst editions of this race I've seen in 40 years. And I hate to be negative and poo-poo it, but this is just not a strong rendition of this race at all, in my humble opinion. Let me go ahead to the entries. What's your thoughts here as I bring up the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf without Emily Upjohn now, Davey?
Well, I mean, the horse that I sent you a list. I mean, the horse that I would say would have the best chance of those remaining would be Wingspan. But it's hardly an endorsement to show a video of a horse that was actually getting slapped around and thumped in the recent UK in the British Champion series, albeit on soft ground. Well, she slapped around the rest of the field, but this is not a horse. This is a second tier horse, really. So you're right. It's a very weak field. And the rest of the England, I don't like the Appleby horses. I mean, these were second and third division horses sent to America to try and clean up some prize money. And some of them did and some of them didn't. They won a couple of great. I haven't got the records in front of me of Cinderella's Dream and
sure.
Yeah, but these girls aren't top notch. So there's nothing from your confidence.
Let's talk about Content, because I think Content is a very polarizing horse. She is going. I'm assuming Moore is going to ride. And Davey, I think the booking here is very important, because whoever Ryan Moore is on, to me, you need to upgrade. I'm assuming you feel the same way. Content, let's just face it, has been awful in her this month and her last two. But they have been on soft ground. They ride her from the back of the pack. And you've mentioned to me, and it's a great point, let's mention it to the punters, that, Moore and Soumillon basically he didn't give up on Content, but didn't ride out fully when they realized that she wasn't going to win. She's much better on firm, and I think she's going to run a big race. My question is, there's not a lot of early gas in this race, and I'm not so sure it's going to set up from her from a pace perspective. But she's going to get the ground, is going to suit, and she is classy.
She is, but not classy enough, I don't think.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I'm really disappointed. I'd love to tell you I had something, but I don't. I don't have a pick for you. I don't have a,
Okay.
I think people need to refer to the U.S. horses they know, whether it's the West Coast Anisette or whether it's the Canadian Moira,
really,
or the Argentine Didier. They've got to look at horses that. I mean, that Moira won. That was a big Triple Crown Canadian thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, great.
Maybe what if I were to tell you the Americans and Canadians are not very good? Then what do you do?
Well, then you take a punt on the outside of the field. But Beach Bomb is the South African, but that's got a wicked kick. But again, there's no pace, and the straight at Del Mar is about 3 feet long. I mean, there's what is it? 800 feet? 800? How long is it?
It's not long.
Not long at all. Right? So,
Davey, let's hear from Aiden about Content, shall we? Here's Aiden about Content. I'm going to bring that up right now.
5 weeks.
Yeah, usually with our horses, Paul, at this time of the season, they're very fit and they take races like they don't have races. I suppose their level of fitness is very high at this time of the year, and if they're well and they've come out of the races, we're always happy to let them go again. But usually at this time of the year, they don't mind backing up because the season's been long and they're kind of bulletproof at this stage anyway.
And you do have Yang.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to keep that going. The reason why I want to play that, Davey, because this would be Content's third start in a month, which is extremely unusual for American horses. But Aiden has done it before.
Yeah, he's done it before, and the Australian horses do that even more. I mean,
yeah,
and the Irish horses run over fences 4 miles like twice a week. I mean, So
my feeling, Davey, my feeling is Ylang is going to be a sort of a go to the lead or wingspan and try to set it up for Content. That's my gut feeling here, because there's just not a lot of speed in the race, or high quality speed. Cinderella's Dream has beaten weak fields here in the United States. Soprano, I don't think Soprano gets the distance. That's my personal opinion. Definitely. I was against her at Keeneland, and I was right, Davey. I don't like her in this spot. This is just a tricky race. Tricky race.
I mean, you'd almost be better off throwing the lowest 5 in the market into your horizontal plays just for the hell of it. I mean, blindly. Yeah. I mean, really. I mean, why not? I mean, no, seriously. I mean, you can do worse than that instead of overstudying something that you'll end up in 100 different opinions.
Yep.
You might as well
we are multitasking because Jim Pillars wants to give me a shout out. I'd like to Determine Kingdom a little bit at Keeneland in an email/tip sheet, and I was fortunate enough to get a winner there. Thanks, Jim. I do appreciate that. Nothing wrong with getting a little winner as we're in the middle of a podcast. Why not? All right, Davey, last race. The Breeders' Cup Mile. The Breeders' Cup Mile, Davey. Honestly, I think this is the race of the weekend. Yeah. This is really good horses. Go ahead.
Oh, from the ridiculous to the sublime. I mean, these are the great horses coming in here, the classic winners, the whole lot. The great American horses. This is a great race.
This is a great race. This is the race of the weekend, in my opinion. Great. You got 3-year-old monsters coming in from Europe. You've got some really good American horses. Let's go ahead. Who do you want to actually? Let me look at the email list here, Davey. I think we're going to start with Notable Speech. Let's start with Notable Speech, who is, I think, the favorite right now, anti-post, but I know you're a little bit against. We're going to watch his 2000 Guineas run, which was the highlight of his season. But Notable Speech for Appleby has been a bit inconsistent, I think would be fair to say, right?
Yeah. He caught the rest of the field here with their pants down, Appleby, because he trained the horse over the synthetic over the winter, which is basically like tracks like Turfway Park, got the horse fit, and the old tried and trusted ways of like basically running your Guineas horse on its second appearance or running the horse fresh, which is what the old school trainings would do. He got around that by getting his horse fit on the all-weather surface, the Tapitia surface. So I don't think that relates. I don't think that ties into the quality. I think it was just a fit horse against horses that were 90% fit. Not a bad horse, a good horse, but not for me, not for this race. Again, I have friends who swear by this horse, just like they swear by Rebel's Romance, but they're not for me.
Here's how I feel about this horse, Davey. Briefly, I'll bring up the PPs here. I think on their best day, if every horse runs their very best race, I think Notable Speech might be the best. The problem is he's going to be a low price and he's extremely inconsistent, and I don't like either one of those factors.
Yeah. No, nor do I. And I don't think he's seen a tight track like this with 14 horses tightly squeezed. It's not. No. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not for me. No disrespect. It might finish a gallant fourth, or he might look. It'll be a bunch finish of some kind or other, won't it? I mean, these things always are.
I would think so. Who do you fancy the most? Who would you like to talk about next? Here are the PPs. I'm sorry, everyone. Here's the PPs for Notable Speech. Also won the Sussex as well, but then finished fifth in the Milan at the Prix de Milan at Longchamp. completely flopped when I was there in person with you at the St. James Palace when Rosalind beat Henry Longfellow. So he's been inconsistent. Who would you like to talk about next, Davey?
I mean, Porta Fortuna has been winning all the races in between times. When it wins, though, it's always just about winning. I'm never quite convinced. It looks like it's like another 10 yards and it gets beat. So I don't want to disrespect it, but I don't see it holding on. Now, I was very impressed with Ramat Jewel, both in the 1,000 guineas in the start of the year when I had a poor ride, they say. And it was at the pre-foray in Longchamp recently, again over soft ground, but I had great acceleration there, even over those conditions. So if they are serious, and there's not many French horses over here. How many French horses are shipped for this time?
Overall, I do not know how many overall, but in this race, Chili Flag, which is it's an American-based horse, is bred French bred, but there are not a lot of French horses in this year's Breeders' Cup. It's true.
Yes. So Ramat Jewel might be their flag bearer.
Another Justify. I mean, how good is this stallion? By the way, wow.
There's a bet. Like an English bookmaker would say, we'll give you price of like 3 if the 3 Justifies sired win, and you'll get a price on that. And
that would be fun, right?
Yeah, that'd be a fun bet. You got City Troy, you got Ramat Jewel. I mean, why not?
Let's talk about. I just want to bring up my opinion as well, and we'll have plenty of time on other shows coming up. I do prefer Ramat Jewel over Porta Fortuna. I just think the American style racing is going to suit Ramat Jewel better. But Ramat Jewel is a bit of a closer, and the jocks are going to have to time that correctly. Porta Fortuna did beat Ramat Jewel earlier this year, I believe at Newmarket, but the jock Lemaire went way too early in that race, and that probably cost Ramat Jewel that race. I just think she's a little bit better, but we shall see. Let's talk about a very interesting horse here that I think is going to take some sneaky money in the market as I scroll up, and that is Diego Velasquez for Aidan O'Brien. We're going to listen to Aidan a little bit here, Davey. This horse has won his last 2, a Frankel colt, and has looked like a completely different animal. And the damn side is Acclamation, which was a miler. They tried going long with this horse. It did not work. He's clearly better shorter, and he's got a nice turn of foot. He seems a little bit of a plotter to me, a little bit. I could be completely wrong, Davey. I don't see that quick burst of acceleration, but he's getting good at the right time, and they like him going forward. So you'll hear what I mean in just a minute. Your thoughts on Diego Velasquez in the mile?
Yeah, going to be right there. I mean, if you're playing a try, you've got to include this horse. It'll be right there.
Okay.
You got it? Yeah.
I was going to, well, I'll bring it up in just a second. You mentioned, and this is the last horse we're going to talk about. Again, thank you everyone for watching. We really appreciate it. You said there's signal in the noise, right? You got to really listen to what these trainers say, because if you listen carefully, they say things without saying things, especially Aidan O'Brien. I think you brought this up to me, that they have some future plans for Diego, and they were pointed to this spot specifically. Let me go ahead and get up the clip right now, and then we'll go ahead and end the show. Again, Davey, we so much thank you for being on with us here. Here is the clip from Aidan just a few days ago about Diego Velasquez.
With Diego, he did a lovely run the last day. We kind of saved him for this, and we thought that he might travel after this, but we're very happy with him. Straightforward horse and mile, should be no problem to him.
Did you hear that, Davey? They're saving for this, and they're going to go on with him. You've got to like what you hear from Aidan O'Brien about this horse, right?
Yeah, because that tells me that this horse is primed to be right there at the money. Now, whether he wins or not is another thing. But it tells you that they're looking to the Hong Kong Mile as well. And that's that when that horse gets there, it'll be the best horse and it'll win, because it won't be in a tight bend with 14 other horses. It'll be a 9 or 10 horse race, and it'll be the best horse in the field, and it'll win for giggles, So that was very, very interesting. And as I say before, I like to see the positive, the upward trajectory, and that tells me that this horse is part of that. So that would get me attached to this horse in a big way. So Ramet Jewel, Diego Velasquez, and then one of the better Americans coming.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tremendous race. I mean, you got Carl Spackler, more than looks. That's a real race. Davey, last question of the entire show today. I'm going to hold your feet to the fire because you're so excellent. Yeah. How many races will be won by Euros/Japanese horses of the 14 races? Of course, there's a few of them that are dirt races where there's no of the turf races. Is it possible that literally every turf race will be won by a foreigner next week?
No.
Okay, but most of them will. I think you'd agree, correct?
I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. The turf they should win, and the Fillies and Mare Turf they should win historically, in theory, but they're not great fields, and the mile is always a crapshoot. So I wouldn't go with that so much. I mean, looking back, I'm not sure I've contributed much tonight. I mean, basically, what I'm thinking on about it. I mean, I've given one good tip, and that would be the Waco Kid as a price, as a bet. That would be my best kind of like, no one saw that coming type of bet, and that would be my hopefully that wins, and then you've got a reason to invite me back on again when I've got a better.
Davey, you gave us, I know you're a little bit under the weather too, and you gave us a tremendous amount of information. It was a 90-minute show. We thank everyone for watching and listening. Again, I apologize for some of the tech difficulties. I said this would be a tricky show from that standpoint, but I know we showed a lot of replays and gave a lot of intel. So for my good friend and co-host tonight from the UK, Mr. Davy Lane, this has been your host, Howard Kravets. It's the European/foreign horses in this year's Breeders' Cup. Crush your bets in the Breeders' Cup with those foreign horses. Take care, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
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 If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.